First race since the start of COVID. I will go over my bike a little bit, tell you what I'm running. Today's course is a very flat course. It's 50% pave and 50% gravel. The gravel is like a really smooth, fast gravel, so I am running fairly close to a rosette. For nutrition for today's race, it's a pretty cold day. It's like 4 degrees Celsius, so all I'm going to run is actually 2 bottles of super fuel because it's only 100 kilometers and it's flat, so we're going to rip it pretty fast probably. So, 2.5 hour finish time, you don't really need. I got 400 calories per bottle. That's probably going to be enough to get me through, the first 2 hours, and last half hour I'll just make it. What it's going to be about is it's going to be a reflection on how the first race back since the start of the pandemic went, some of the conditions going into it, and how I prepared for the race, what happened during the race, and then an analysis of how the race went. This race was sprung upon me quite last minute. I only had about 2 weeks notice, so I was right in the middle of my, right at the start of my off season on my annual training plan, and at the end of August, I was pretty fit, and then I decided to take 3 weeks off after some epic gravel riding in the interior, or not the interior, in the Caribou, and took about 3 weeks off, and just been coming back to cycling slowly, but really with a big emphasis on weightlifting. So where I did about 3 weeks of adaptation, and then 2 weeks hypertrophy, which was most recent, and the race was announced right during my hypertrophy period, which was brutal because I hadn't done a lot of riding. Well, there wasn't a lot of miles on my legs over the past six or 8 weeks, and hypertrophy just shredded your legs. I was literally doing 60 squats a day, 60 leg presses a day, 4 days a week for 2 weeks straight, with about 70% of my rep max. So that was, it leaves your legs basically feeling you're pretty trashed from that sort of thing. So I showed up for the race on Sunday, and my legs were like wood, not a lot of power there, and then commenced the race. So my idea was to sit at the back of the field and just try to be as conservative as possible, draft. It ended up being a fairly small field due to the COVID situation. Right off the bat, pretty brisk pace, and then my idea to sit in the draft backfired on me. There was at least 2 good technical corners where there was the course was 50% gravel, 50% pavement, and there were at least 2 corners where they were a 90 degree turn and going from either pavement to gravel or gravel to pavement, and with some pinch points. So what would happen is the front guys would go through and then just stomp on the pedals, and the accordion effect was massive. So I was doing an incredible amount of power just to stay in contact with the group. I would say every corner I was doing at least 1,000 watts to just stay in contact. And after not doing a whole lot of riding for 6 to 8 weeks and not spending a whole lot of time over 250 watts for some time now, 1,000 watts, to tell you, that sure hurt. And after a few of those corners, I was toast. I was full of lactic acid, and my body wasn't having it. It was cold out. I was getting some, a little bit of athlete-induced asthma from the cold air, lungs not be conditioned, and combined with that wattage, I found myself, after a couple laps, dropped for the first time in probably about 3 years. I haven't been dropped I think I was dropped once in the past 3 years in a race, so this is the second time. So it really came as no surprise. Wasn't expecting that much. It's just that I probably could have done race a little bit smarter to make that race a little smoother. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to do a sprint workout, which you might question why am I doing a sprint workout at this time of year. And I've since completed the hypertrophy weight phase and now into a strength weight phase, which is much easier in the system. It's only 2 days a week weightlifting, and you are doing reps of sets of 6 instead of 10 and 12 like you do in hypertrophy. A little heavier weight, but only 6 reps of 6 of each exercise, and just 2 days a week. And the sprint workout actually supplements that sort of thing quite nicely, because the workout I'm doing today is 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off, and supplements your weightlifting and actually doesn't tax the system too much. It's not like doing VO2 max intervals or even sweet spot, where you're sort of riding that high end, which is something you don't really want to do this time of year. So keeps you sharp, and with that in mind, doing the sprint workouts, lighter weightlifting, and significantly more riding this week. I think that the upcoming race, second and final race of the season, which will be this Sunday, which will be a 90%, at least a 90% gravel course, should go a lot smoother after getting over the initial shock of the first one. The race was well run. It was very safe. I felt there was very low risk of COVID being passed around the way things were handled. Good job, the organizers, to localride.ca, the local ride group, for putting that race on. A lot of people questioned that, what did it say to me, like, if I wasn't really race ready, why would I show up to that race? And I really felt that, well, I wanted to be part of that environment again, and I really felt I wanted to support these sort of events being held and show that they can be done. So I felt it was important that I showed up, even though I didn't have my A game on, or even B game. The race was, it was well managed. I think there were a couple of things that were maybe a bit overkill that didn't need to be done. I realized there's probably some optics involved there as well. Like, for example, they had us stage, we weren't allowed to enter the lot until an allocated time, and we had to remain in our vehicles for the majority of the time, unless we were just basically getting changed or grabbing their bikes. And the organizers would go vehicle to vehicle to check you in, give you a race package, your race numbers, things like that. I kind of think that those sort of steps were unnecessary. I mean, everyone knows well enough to keep physical distance. Everyone's wearing masks. I think that should be sufficient. I think you can give the cycling community more credit to that they'll do the right thing when they're on site. You have the numbers are already managed. Just expect that when people come on site that they'll keep distance from each other, they'll keep their masks on. So we can do normal things like check in, grab our own numbers, wander about freely. But in general, I guess it's going to be a learning process. I just think there's some things that you can probably relax on a little bit. But generally in the race, I would say I could probably speak for everyone. Everyone felt very safe. Everyone felt very happy with the experience. It was a good experience. I'm very thankful for them, for Barry and his crew to host this race. Thanks for the effort. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to the next one. The nutrition strategy worked out really well for that race. Ended up being, as I predicted, extremely fast, extremely short. 100K, but it was covered in just a little over 2 hours. I guess it was more like 90 some K. Covered a little over 2 hours. So my strategy to just go with 2 bottles of super fuel, 400 calories per bottle, 100 grams of carbs per bottle. It was pretty much perfect. I had just enough energy to get through the race. I had enough hydration to get through the race. Didn't need any solid foods. When you run that short, that hard, that fast, you're really not going to have a lot of time to digest solid foods anyway, so you're going to be mostly wanting to do gels, chews, blocks, and in my case, this drink. I thought that was really great. So I think I'll definitely be doing that again for these sub 3 hour races. I think it's the winning formula. So we're here at the second race, and I think that we got a really great day out today. It's 11 degrees Celsius, might go up a degree or two by the time to start, but it's a pretty ideal temperature. As you can see, it's nice and sunny. I think that today is going to go much better than last week, because I'm definitely in a much better state. Well slept, loop recovery scores is 91%. I've gotten a lot of good quality riding this week, including some efforts here and there, so that what we come as quite of a shock to the system this time around. And I'll talk to you a little bit about my bike setup. For bike setup, I decided not to make any changes from last week, so I'm going to run the 30C tires again. The course is maybe like 60% gravel. There's like maybe 10% of the course where, you know, it would be nice to have a 32 tire. It's maybe rough and potholey, but if you can just survive that, you'll be thankful for the other 90% of the course. Running the super fuel drink mix again. Decided to go with bigger bottles this time, just to have a little extra hydration. And that seemed to work really well last time. And that's about all there is to say about the bike. So a bit about the bike. I'm running 30 mil Vittoria Corsa Control tires. They're a tubeless tire. They're really nice for rough roads, wet roads, light gravel. Yet they're still pretty fast on the road. And then I'm running a 50-36 front chainring and 1134 on the back. For handlebars, I run a 120 stem and a 40 centimeter handlebar with a little bit of flare. They're the Envy Aero bars, so they flare out to like 43 or something like that. I can't remember. Well, today ended up being a disappointment. I actually had really good legs and everything was going well. And pretty early on, we hit a really rough patch of road, and I tried to cut across the line and puncture the sidewall, and that was the end of my day. So it took a while to change the flat, and then just sat in the wheel of a chase group to finish off the race today. Disappointing, because I actually had really good legs and was riding. It felt like I had no chain today, so obviously I had good preparation, but yeah, that's the way it goes, I guess. These Vittoria Corsa or control wheels or tires, they're meant for cobble racing, but maybe not the best for gravel racing because the sidewalls are a wee bit on the thin side, and I think that's why I got a puncture.